You haven't seen
that is very Michael.
Catch this ball in your body. Right. So in your hands, you tighten up, ball goes through you. Or you tighten up, ball hits the ground.
That's the worst advice I've ever heard for a receiver. Don't catch it with your hands, catch it with your body.
How you gonna tell me that's the worst advice? I'm only one of the best to ever do it at playing that game.
Here's my problem. We don't have time because you guys talk too much, and so I can't. I've run out of time here. I did. Yes, you talk too much. But how about this Undisputed? You are going to love it, man.
So the new Undisputed debuted yesterday, and today I just want to give some of my quick first impressions. So I've seen a couple general reactions, but nothing yet in depth, and I haven't watched any vids on this. I've just seen the thumbnail. But right now we're in that phase where everybody's getting their jokes off. A lot of it was funny, but on this channel we'll take a different approach. I'll give you my real, honest impressions on the new Undisputed from the perspective of somebody who's been making content for 8 years. Now, you can't fully judge a show or a YouTube channel or a football team after 1 or 2 games or 1 or 2 videos or 1 or 2 episodes. For me, this new version of Undisputed is like a badass child who's got a ton of potential. Question is, will he get out of his own way to become the best version of himself? You can tell him a dad now. So with that said, here's the disclaimer. My early impressions may not reflect my ultimate feelings about the show, say 3 or 4 months from now. I saw a lot of people saying how the show is basically trash, and at the risk of taking heat, I didn't come away with that impression. I intentionally stayed away from taking in any other opinions until after I sat down and watched the show for myself. Turned on my little background music, got the good vibes going, turned on the show, and gave it a fair shake. So for the time being, I'll talk about what I saw yesterday and earlier today when I checked out some full clips. I see the potential there, as there's a few things I like, but also a few potential issues that can cause the whole thing to implode. With that said, bro, we on some chill vibes today. This should be a mostly positive video, so sit back and catch some vibes as we briefly discuss the new Undisputed. Of the few brief complaints that I came across on Twitter, one of the most common complaints was how they were still using the same topics. So you saw them put Skip Bayless and Michael Irvin together, and you somehow thought they was gonna talk about the Cowboys less? Come on, bro. I talked about this in my last vid, actually. Bro, look at this lineup. What offense you thought they was gonna run? But the Cowboy conversation that they had on day 1, I'm gonna get killed for this, but I thought it was a good discussion. You got a lot of not just different opinions, but I thought a lot of different facts was brought into the discussion. I like how each panelist views things through their own lens, and I thought everybody did a decent job of defending their positions pretty well. What scares me is that over time, and you see this happen a lot, when it's a 2-man panel, it might not happen when it's 4, but sometimes panelists start to think the same way over time. Then you start hearing this line all the time. I'm gonna piggyback on what you said. See, for me, that's always been the draw for these shows. Like, I don't care much what your actual opinion is, just as long as you can defend your position in both a semi-intelligent and semi-entertaining way. As long as you can do that, to me, different opinions have value. When somebody breaks down actual logic that you can follow, that potentially opens your eyes to a new perspective. See, today I feel like a lot of people got varying opinions and varying perspectives, but they never defend them. Politics has taught us to just say, what about them over there? Instead of actually defending your position. But anyway, I like a panelist who can make a good debate. So when it devolves into an argument, the passion makes sense. But see, when panelists go back to the same argument every time, especially when it's an argument that's easy to poke holes in, and the person sitting across from them doesn't poke the holes, that usually is when it's time for me to take a break. But if I take a break, I check back, because the chemistry on these shows just constantly morphs depending on a variety of things. For example, I Am Athlete, I thought had a great run, but even before they split up, man, the chemistry started changing. Once it did, you felt it, and it changes the dynamic. I think we typically watch content because it invokes a certain feeling. Once that feeling goes missing for an extended period of time, it's up to the host to try to recapture that in a new and authentic way. Like, you're never gonna be the same as you was 3 or 4 years ago. If you are, there's a problem, bro. It means you're not growing. Pretty much my whole life, bro, I like wearing hats, but at the same time, I also wanted to grow my hair out. And when you get dreads, the growth process is amazing. But every couple of months, you gotta readjust that snapback. My point is, with any kind of growth, there's constant constant adjustment. And them adjustments don't always fit as seamlessly as you would like. You're gonna go through some good phases and you're gonna go through some rough phases. Just embrace every one and don't break down when people judge you. Now that philosophy of course aligns with life overall, but it also aligns with making content for an extended period of time. So I talked about how we saw the chemistry change on I Am Athlete, and we also saw it change with Skip and Shannon Sharpe. These are the big obvious shifts that's impossible not to notice, but smaller shifts constantly take place that you gotta look real close to catch. Sometimes it's for the good and sometimes it's for the bad. It's like watching your kid grow up from a toddler to a teen to an adult. They're constantly changing, but it's only certain times when you notice. Like they never stop growing and they never stop morphing, but you just look up one day and be like, bro, when the f did you grow a mustache? That's also how these shows work, so you gotta give them time to breathe and a chance to become whatever it is that they'll become. Skip has come down off his high horse a little bit, and that's great. And I've said in these videos for years at this point that we all got our bullshit that comes out from time to time. We all got it in us, bro. So when it comes out, acknowledge it, but don't beat yourself up too damn bad, as long as you make a real true effort to improve on the problem. I think that by Skip inviting on these three particular gentlemen, Skip has checked his own ego, and we'll see how long it lasts, but I'm more than happy to give him credit for this move. He even sat with Richard Sherman and hashed out their past beef. To come back and humble yourself after you've drawn a line in the sand is honestly not an easy thing to do. But both Skip and Sherm told their sides of what happened, adding some real interesting context to the situation. So Skip breaks it down that he and Stephen A at the time were trying to go without any incidents on TV. They were auditioning to get First Take moved to the afternoon slot, which I guess at the time is a more prestigious time slot. Also, according to Skip, Stephen A really wanted that later slot because he would actually go to games at night and he wanted to sleep a little later. If you follow my channel, you know I love these little details. To me, those type of details is what makes the story. Not just what happened, but the subtext behind it that led to each individual reacting in a certain way. So hearing how Skip was told that Sherm was coming on, but he didn't want no smoke, he was coming on to promote something positive, plus the fact that according to Skip, this was the last show before they went on vacation, and all they needed was to make it through this without incident, and they be able to move into the prestigious noon slot or whatever. Then as they're setting up the mics, Sherm overhears Skip say that Sherm's not in the same stratosphere as Revis. That put Sherm on edge and ignited the situation that went from a couple small sparks to a big ass wildfire. And the incident caused Skip and Stephen A to not get the noon slot. So there was real repercussions behind this viral clip, which in my book, you know, makes it that much more legendary. So to me, bro, hearing that added context was dope, and I hope they had these one-on-one segments as a normal part of the show. I like the overall format, but I also like the fact that they had a segment or two that's a little more personal. Switching gears, even though I can't play it, bro, the new intro song is fire. Wayne is obviously the GOAT, and this song is way better than the last one. Like, for real, bro, it's fire. Like, go listen to it after this. Wayne was in his bag on this one, bro. It's hard, bro, for real. But while I enjoyed the first show, bro, there are some potential problems that mostly we all have kind of seen coming. My boy Quincy Carrier had a funny tweet about it. Here's what he said. I love using sports talk terms to talk about sports talk show hosts. The perfect terms here would be, it's only one ball. Too many chefs in the kitchen, it looks great on paper, but can they actually coexist as a team? On point, and those seem to be the general concerns, and the likelihood that that ruins the show is pretty damn high. One, it could get to the point where it's just annoying to watch, but if the cast starts to get frustrated, the show will obviously suffer. If Michael Irvin's going too viral every time they drop a segment, will Keyshawn look at the producers and say, throw me the damn ball? I use Keyshawn there because that's actually his quote, but my biggest concern for who would do that is Skip Bayless himself. And I'm not pulling that out of thin air, that's what happened with Shannon Sharpe. And I know there's more to it, but that clearly played a role. Then Skip got to the point where he was trying to always overtalk dude, wouldn't let him get his thoughts off. It got really awkward to watch. But these three individuals, when it comes to debates, are a whole lot more rough around the edges. While Shannon's always been outspoken, he's always been funny. And for him, he mostly uses humor as his main weapon. But these three kind of go about debate in a slightly different way. And that could eventually cause some issues in the locker room. But here's my thing, bro. Every one of these dudes can give you non-stop opinions all day. Sometimes restraints actually makes things better. It's been long understood that contrary to popular belief, restraint in many cases improves creativity. If you watch a show long long enough, you can tell when the hosts are just trying to fill time. Jokes linger way too long, and well thought out takes that you're actually passionate about usually get replaced with theatrics. But when you gotta fight to get out every single word, when you actually get to speak, bro, that argument gonna be on point. Now, this would not work if they didn't have 4 dominant personalities. Dudes who've never failed to have a strong opinion and was never scared to speak on it. Cause if you're a quiet dude that's a lot more laid back, you'll end up sitting back and just listening, and you will never get a word in. So while a lot of people feel like there being 4 people sharing the topics and everybody can get all their thoughts off, I actually think it's a positive. Because when Skip get 2 and 3 rounds on the same topic, he gonna make the same argument. He just gonna make it louder the second time. So I really don't put this in a negative category. I think the format does a good enough job of holding each person in check. See, when Skip is respectful, he can be very likable. But when your ego get to tripping, we all become assholes. Some of us are passive aggressive. Some of us are just aggressive. Some of us just complain a lot. Some of us play victim. But if you really look in the mirror, you gon' see your own bull. We just happen to see Skips on national television. So with that said, how will dude handle not being able to get all his rants off and having 3 dudes with full intentions to poke holes in his argument? I don't know how long this dynamic is gonna last, but for me it adds stakes. Like, you gotta bring your A game. So I've been getting some pushback on this, but I've constantly said that Skip is talented. But on the previous version of Undisputed, I didn't find it all that interesting. I liken it to NBA players dropping 70 in the summer against starstruck dudes playing zero defense. See, Skip has set the show up, like changed all the rules, so that Shannon basically could not even try to guard him. He had started calling foul anytime any type of defense was played, and then bragged the next day about how he just dropped 50. My hope is that metaphorically, Michael Irvin does Skip like he did Adam Sandler in The Longest Yard movie, where now Skip has got to play the game by prison rules. If you turn up the defense, I think that will bring the best out of Skip Bayless. Now, Skip opened up the show with really high energy, and you could tell dude was really excited to have his show back. I'm on record saying I didn't respect how Skip came out and told the world that he told his wife that she'd always be number 2 to his job. A lot of dudes disagree with that, but I just believe in balance. There's pockets of time where you're gonna have to prioritize one over the other. But to make a permanent decision that your career is more important to the companion that you're supposed to take care of through this life, I don't mess with that. I also don't mess with a dude who called in to work because his wife said out the blue that she wants to go shopping today. What happened to reasonable? What happened to balance? That's just how I feel about it, and that's how I strive to live my life. With that said though, I do appreciate Skip's passion for what he does. Seeing him so excited kind of lit a fire under me. This dude's 1,000,000 years old and he's made a ton of money, and the job still gives him that energy, so you know, I think that's dope. So my early impressions are that I think these 3 co-hosts will ultimately be good for Skip and ultimately be good for the show. But that's only if the chemistry actually works itself out. I'm just hoping that the egos don't come and mess things up. With that being said, we just saw that happen, so I think there's a minimum like a 50-50 chance it happens again. But I enjoyed the debut, maybe because I'm just seeing potential, but I'll be interested to see how it morphs over the coming weeks and months. But what y'all think about Undisputed? Does it turn into something good that can stick around and eventually make people forget about the old show? Or does it quickly fizzle out? Do egos get out of control and leave fans once again clamoring for the old days? Hope y'all enjoyed the video. That's all I got for today. If you need something else to watch, click the next video on screen.